going over the same area where my dad was when he had the biggest meetings he'd ever had.
Can I turn it this way?
And started churches.
Is this okay?
And these people now are grown older, and here I am, grown up and have kids, and I was 4 years old.
Keep talking, I got you. You keep talking.
What's that on?
What's the bright light shining?
I don't know. Can I turn the light off, Sharon?
I have the option with the blogging to turn it on or off. But
Gotta be a way to turn this thing off. So irritating.
What's the bright light?
it is bright.
I don't know, her camera.
Is it recording?
It's recording.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, we were then in Sulphur. I don't know how long we stayed there.
At least a year, because I did
Oh, sure, at least a year.
maybe two, because I don't know that I started second grade there, but maybe, I don't know.
We had a good group of young people for being a small church, and kids too.
Now, was that a church plant? Did you?
No, it wasn't.
That was one's been there for a long time.
Hold it for a second.
That
Let me
was
see if I can
part
get
of
this
the,
going.
what did they call it?
It was the,
Howard,
Sabine, it was the
yeah, part of Sabine Church.
United Gospel Tabernacles. That's what it was. It was part of that group of churches.
Because I remember at one of those churches, one memory I have is of you, Dad, playing the saxophone, and a hot summer night, the window is open at the church, and there's nobody there, and you're playing because the service is supposed to come, nobody's coming to the service. And you're at the window playing, which, to draw people to come in and be curious.
Where was this?
Sulphur. But were we in Sulphur twice?
We were there twice.
Mm-hmm.
But was this the first time then?
I don't remember this at
You
all.
probably hadn't started playing then yet. I had a saxophone from when I was in band,
Right.
you know.
But he was playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Sunday school was just us kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, I still to this day remember one illustration. You had some sort of a plastic thing that would make into a cross that illustrated, the bridge between, the cross piece was the bridge between man and... Huh?
He did that kind of stuff then.
Yeah, so...
Then we left from there. That was with Michael. Oh, then we went to Galveston.
You were pregnant with? Ronnie!
Yes. That's how I can keep track of where we were when, because there's always a kid involved.
You're such a
And
rabbit.
this was Ronnie's time, because I was pregnant with Ronnie.
It was the most special time of your life, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. And we moved to Galveston, and
You got a dog on your
it
head.
was okay, but then, it got hard. And short of money and all that stuff, and we didn't know what we were going to do.
That's the second time we moved to Sulphur. We moved back to Sulphur, and I went to work for the newspaper there in Sulphur.
Mm-hmm.
In advertising?
And no, I was a typesetter.
Okay.
I was
We did a lot of
typesetter to
interesting
begin
stuff.
with, and that didn't have anything to do with. Eventually, I ran the press, but we were there until we moved to Bridge City, and
Well, wait a minute. Go back to the...
But from when we moved back there, then I was pregnant with Dwight.
Dwight, yeah.
Well, let's wait a minute. Whoa.
Anyway,
We skipped
gotta
right
get
over
Ron
Ron.
born
Yeah, we gotta get Ron born first.
Anyway, we were in Galveston, and then Ronnie was born there, and that's where I got so sick when he was just born. That's where I had bronchitis almost into pneumonia. It was real bad.
I remember you fainting
Yeah.
and being very, very terrified.
She fainted because she took penicillin.
Is that right?
That's when I
and
found out I was
that's when
allergic.
she found out that she was
After I was born, or
allergic.
Yeah,
during pregnancy?
you were just a tiny baby.
Okay.
And then I got sick, because I remember I was in the bed sick, and you were there to be taken care of. I don't know how we managed that, really. But anyway, you were already born, so I didn't hurt you by being sick. But then they gave me penicillin, my fingers blew up like sausages, and I was on the way to the bathroom. When I came back out, I felt like a cold breeze blow up in my face, and I just flop there by the table where all these kids could see.
So did you have to go to the hospital or something? No?
No.
Just stayed in bed and got over it. The doctor came to the house,
I know
which
we
was
had,
amazing.
Sharon and I had chicken pox there.
Yeah, I think maybe even Larry had it, because I think there was more than just you girls.
Okay.
A bunch of you were sick all at the same time.
Yeah,
course,
and
Ronnie
at one
wasn't
point you guys
usually.
were both sick too, right?
Not at that house.
Not that house?
No, that was at Bridge City.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, Grandma Holt had to come out. That's another story.
Yeah, that was later. But anyway, let's see. Ronnie was born there, and then everything got so desperate until we were only
You sure?
getting like $10 in a week, and we had
good
5
grief.
of you kids.
Yeah.
Jack was delivering milk at that time in the area down there somewhere, and he would bring us milk sometimes.
That when we would have pancakes that were made out of flour and water?
No, that was California. When we went to California, you
We're just you
it
were
was
you
just
were a baby.
The two of you. Larry, I was pregnant with Larry. And well, then we finally left there, and we went back to Sulphur. And of course, I was pregnant again.
Of course.
And then we went back to the Sulphur church at that time.
The same church? Went back to
Oh,
the
yeah,
same.
same church, yeah.
Same church.
Okay.
In the meantime, after we left it, did Marilyn and Glenn come in after us? But Marvin had it for a while, and then Marilyn and Glenn had it for a while, and then we came back and we took it again.
Wow. Wow.
So anyway, that's when we went to the house with the 2 doors. That's where we moved to.
McBride Street.
Yeah, and Anna was in that area by then, Lake Charles, I guess, but she came over there and cleaned the place up for us, which was really nice.
Well, they eventually moved to Sulphur because I remember going to her house, to her house in Sulphur. I don't know what I was doing there.
Anyway, she cleaned it up. She knew I was pregnant.
Anyway, she was there.
And, just coming from there, so that was nice. And we lived there for a while, then into that other house. It was on the main street that went by the church.
Who was born? Was somebody born while we lived in the house with 2 doors?
Yeah, Dwight was.
Dwight was, because I remember all this commotion in the middle of the night, and I remember you waking Sandra up and saying, "You're in charge. We got to go to the hospital."
Yeah. And so I said, you get in our bed with Ronnie, because he was still little, about a year old.
But I knew how to take care of myself even
sure.
then. And so Sandra had no worries. I was
And so here
self-contained.
you are. All you kids are in that house by yourself.
On the door.
But you know, I
That's
look
right.
back on it. How could we do that? But we did.
How old was I?
How
Must have
much
been
older
about
are you
9.
than Dwight?
I don't know. I don't know.
How old are you again, Ron? You're 55?
You're
Michael-
7 years
50.
younger than me, right?
Shh. Hold on.
You're
He's got
2 years
50.
younger than Michael.
Michael, yes.
And then Dwight is
How old's
way
Michael?
after you.
Well, you were born in 57, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was born in 1950, so you're 7 years younger than me.
Okay, how old does that make
So
me?
that makes Dwight born in 58.
58.
So how old
Yeah.
am I? How old am I?
What?
54?
Who?
Me. 54.
How old are you?
54. 55.
He
No,
doesn't know how
you're
old
55.
Well,
I'm gonna
Dwight was
keep it
born in
54.
58.
Okay, so you were 8 years old then,
Keep it 54.
Sandra.
I was 8.
You were
Wow.
8.
I think my age
You
is
weren't
stuck at
very
54.
old.
It's not moving anymore.
You were
Dream on.
trusted you. You were very responsible.
Thank you.
So anyway, we went
I'll
to
take
the
that as a
hospital
compliment.
and had him. When you were back in the morning, I think your mother came over for a while.
Yeah, Dad was back in the morning. I remember when Dad walked in, I was so relieved that we were not orphans. I seriously remember being so relieved that Dad walked in the door.
So you were there all night long?
Huh?
All night long?
Well, it was wee hours. What time was he
Yeah.
It
born?
was in the wee hours that I started having pains. Knew we need to go. So you took me, left all the kids at home sleeping, and I don't know what time we came back, but I mean you came back. But anyway, your mother came over to help for a few days.
You can't. You were home. You were home in time to get Sandra and me dressed for school. Obviously.
So you still went to school?
I have no idea.
You
I don't
would've-
remember.
Yeah,
it,
you
so.
would have, because when we lived in Seoul for the first time is when you started school.
Right.
So
So you went to Galveston, went to another school.
Yep. Hey, that's cool.
that was the scary one for him.
That was awfully
and then we moved
scary.
back to Sulphur, and so he must have gone to school then, too.
Wait, that's December though, isn't it?
And he was
Yeah.
born
So there was no
December.
school during December.
December 21. Oh, well,
23rd.
maybe
So it might have been during Christmas holiday.
Oh,
the
it's
break.
Christmas, Christmas holiday.
If it was
Yeah.
during the Christmas holiday, that would have made it easier as far as your kids are concerned.
So is the sulfur? Is that the house that had the wolf in it?
2 doors. No.
The house had the wolf in it.
No, it was
In the garage.
It's in the garage.
Dwight was born where the 2 doors, McBride. That was where
McBride
you
Street.
saw Wolf.
It was McBride Street.
The first time we lived in Sulphur, you lived in the house where
It was on Burton Street when we first moved to Sulphur.
where you,
I mean,
you made
yeah,
the doll beds.
Yep, that's the one where the wolf was in the garage. Not a real wolf, just to
I
be
don't remember the
perfectly clear.
address of that house, except it was in
It was a
Burton.
stain on the wall of the garage.
That looked like a
was
wolf, and we were
Oh,
scared
I'm
to
glad
death.
you're clarifying.
Yeah, is that the house where we would go and we would close the hallway door? No, that was in El Monte, I guess. We close the hallway doors and make it black and play Edgar Allan Poe. The tailed heart.
Oh my goodness.
That's Lower Azusa Road. But we digress. We've got Dwight born now, so.
Okay,
No
Dwight's
wonder I had
born.
nightmares when I...
We're back in Sulphur Church. And then after that, where did we go? Bridgeton?
Then life stopped.
Well, I'm working for the newspaper.
Yeah.
And you loved it, by the way. I remember you loved it.
I
You
did.
loved.
Absolutely.
I remember that you were so excited that you got to run the presses finally. I remember that because I was excited for you.
Sure,
Oh.
I was very, very happy with all that
And
stuff.
he'd bring back all those rolls of paper, they didn't need
Yep.
anymore. to roll it out so you kids could draw on it.
Apparently, I was the child that was touched with the feeling of your infirmity.
But anyway, from Sulphur, we moved to Bridge City.
Look, they didn't even pay
And
attention to that.
I still was with the paper in Sulphur for a very short time. I don't know exactly what, I guess it was just too far to drive over there, I don't know.
They offered you a job as what, editor?
Well, he was Mr. Wise. Mr.
That's it, Mr. Wise. I
was
remember
the-
that.
Was the
You
man who
serious?
owned
I do.
the
He
two
was in
two
Sulphur.
newspapers that we printed, and he was going to. He offered to set me up in one of the towns north of Sulphur, someplace, and for me to set me up to have a newspaper.
Wow.
He would
He was
set
really
me up
nice. They
and
liked us.
all that kind of stuff. But I said no. I've got to go to Bridge City. I've got a church over there. So I mean, I turned it down naturally because I had ministry on my mind. And but yeah, I could have taken. He would have set me up in some town. It was a large enough town to, to have a weekly anyway.
Wow.
And so, anyway, I turned that down,
But
So you
before
could
we
have had
went
a
to-
ministry reaching the whole town
I guess.
instead of taking those thoughts. You had to go back to a small church, okay.
But before
They
we
just
moved-
didn't think about those in that. There
I
was
know
no,
that. I'm playing. They
Yeah.
didn't think that way then.
Yeah.
That's the.
Before we
It's
moved to
amazing.
Bridge City, you had school on your mind, you thought about going to college for what, I don't know that you had anything particular in mind. But then we discovered Ronnie had a hernia,
Mm-hmm.
and
didn't Dwight?
Dwight too. Dwight and I
think
both.
Dwight, maybe we didn't know about Dwight yet.
I
But
talked to
I know-
him. I said, "Hey, you want to share this with me? I don't want to go by myself." So we talked,
Because they
collaborated.
went together.
I said,
They were
Dwight,
at the
here's how to
hospital
get a
I know, but
hernia.
that was California.
Lift this. Try to
Oh.
lift the end of this bed up, and you'll get it with me.
Anyway, we found out he had a hernia. He wanted to go to school or buy that house. So we had to make a choice. Decided he could wait a while. It didn't seem that bad.
Really?
You were
He
passed over
decided-
for a house.
And yeah, we wanted to buy a house so bad. We just wanted the feeling of, I guess I wanted
The
to.
house was more important than my hernia.
But he didn't, it was buy a house or he'd go to school. He decided to buy the house.
No, I'm out
And
of
that's
picture
where
altogether
we
now.
moved from to Bridge City.
Well, they almost dropped you in the bio and said, "Oh, forget it."
I mean, what do you do when you have a hernia? What do you mean you
You
had a
push it
hernia?
back in. That's what you did. What they did all the time. They would.
punched you in the stomach again, bully,
It's
and that
in your
that hernia just
groin.
went. Mwah.
Yes,
Yeah,
every time.
hernia
Every
is
time
in
it would
your
pop out.
groin.
Every time it would pop out, and you would cry. And I'm not joking about this. Somebody had to push it back in.
Yep. I remember doing that.
Pushing it in?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
We were very
It's
primitive.
It's where in the groin.
This really wasn't the United States. It was in Central
Would it hurt
Africa.
me? Would I start crying?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
He went.
It would hurt, and
It
that
would
would.
hurt.
That's the
Wait a
reason
minute.
why we knew.
I remember now. I remember the pain. The pain that I carried. And I remember how you chose the house over me.
And you saw the sense of it at that time. You said, "Oh,
No, the
Mom,
sin.
oh, Dad,
The sin of
I
it.
know what you're doing for me, and I gladly give myself
That's
in
right.
order so that you can buy this house."
That's right. As I recall,
remember you saying
as
that.
I recall, you gave your wisdom and your counsel to that, and you used your gift and said, "Yes, it's better if you do that."
Oh,
So
yeah, that's right.
anyway, we had to go to
My first
Bridge
words when I
City
started
because
talking was
your
bye.
dad took that.
Bye.
So we went to Bridge City, bought that house,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess rented that one for a while that we left. But anyway, we were in Bridge City then,
I remember you putting St. Augustine in the backyard, planting that.
No, it was Zoya.
Oh,
yeah.
Zoya, Zoya grass.
We tried
Okay.
desperately to
Yeah,
get a
I
yard in
wanted
there.
it very much to
Then-
grow, you know, but it just would not grow.
Well, right after that, we had that storm that
Well,
flooded
that's true
everything.
too, but that was that was watering the lawn.
Yeah.
Soaking it and drowning
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you put in the chain link fence around the place too, in the
What?
back. The chain link fence in the back.
Oh, yes. I
You did
sure
that
The
too.
big garfish got stuck in it.
Chain
Yep.
link fence. No, the fish got caught in that, the people that lived on the corner up there.
That now have the house that's way high. I mean,
Is it high?
oh
Yeah.
man.
Oh, they rebuilt.
Double. They took these big pillars and it's
Okay,
sitting on
okay.
top of it. So
Because there's always the danger, in
Yeah.
other words, when a hurricane
Always.
comes in,
That's low.
boy, it'll
they
fill
won't have
it
any
up.
problem there.
That's,
They
no, they
actually, I
won't.
think what they did was they raised the property because that when the house next door lived there or was there, it was down in a depression. That's why we were up higher,
Yeah.
higher elevation. There was down, and then it came way high in their
Okay,
house.
but that explains why they built it on stilts,
Yep.
for sure, yeah.
But of course, then from that place, when things got really bad, you know, about this one guy saying if we'd leave, he'd pay his tithe.
No, see, I don't know anything about that.
Oh,
You
Well,
did
we
at the
were
Bridge
there.
City Church?
Yeah, she mentioned that the other day.
we were in the Bridge City Church,
First Assembly of God.
and it had been closed, so it was like
Yeah,
we
I was
opened it.
appointed there by the presbyter
And so,
if I was wanted to go, which I
and
did.
your dad and mom came over there sometimes. Your dad played the
The
bass.
bass.
Wait. Grandpa?
Yeah.
Played the bass?
My dad played bass.
And he
It
played
was
the
a big
bass in the church?
The stand-up
Huh?
bass.
Really?
in our
Yeah.
church.
I remember that. I do
I
remember
didn't
that.
know that.
Oh yeah,
And I was
I'm
playing
getting
the
a
piano
total visual
there.
in that.
I'm not.
Wow.
And so,
Wow.
anyway,
I never thought Grandpa was saved, so I didn't
know-
understand why he was
not-
there.
Was he saved?
yeah, he gotten saved
Yeah, I'm sure he was. As far as
whenever
I know.
you did.
I didn't know Grandpa had gotten saved.
Oh my goodness, a long time ago.
Whenever
Really?
he was a kid and started preaching
Sure.
and all that stuff, he was saved at that time, sometime during that time, because he was already in the church, Christian, but when he was preaching.
He was just cranky with Grandma then.
Oh yeah, you know, a person gets saved, they're not saved, they're saved from their sins.
But they're not sanctified yet.
They're not saved, they still have the same personality,
Yeah.
same desires, same wishes. That's when we have the war against the flesh.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were in Bridge City for, I don't remember how long, wasn't very long, were we?
What, in Bridge City?
City.
Year, maybe?
Maybe a year at the most, I think.
I don't think
probably.
I only went to one grade there. So
Okay, it was a year then. Of course, there are all 6 of you by now.
Sharon and I were talking about when we were talking about riding the bicycle down that road, that one road. You know, looks just like it. And I was thinking we had 2 bicycles. Oh, remember when we used to go bike riding? And she said, yeah, when the one bike, we were always fighting on whose turn it was.
It was a blue Schwinn.
Uh-huh. Well, we wanted to get you kids more, but all we could manage was one.
Yeah.
So, anyway, 3 of you were in school there, I guess, because Michael started in California. But anyway, that's where we had to make some kind of decision, and your dad, in the meantime, you went to California, probably to Jack's for a meeting, I imagine. And then while you were there, then that's when you had the feeling about that we should move to California.
Yeah, I
after
felt
Jack.
good about moving to California, I really did. I felt like it would be the thing to do.
So
I just wanted to move there.
you didn't know
It just
which
felt
thing to do.
right. It
Yeah.
just felt right. I didn't have any place to go, but anyway. It
We
felt
had no
right.
idea where we'd go up.
But it seems like you'd been used to doing that kind of thing.
Well, whenever
Sort of.
you take one of these little churches, like Palestine or Sulphur again, that's the way you operated. You operated in that realm of, okay, don't know exactly what to do, but hey, this is opened up. Well, why don't we just take that then? We would move into it.
Of course, that was considered faith at that
Oh,
time, right?
yeah, sure it
A lot of
was.
risk.
It was, you know, you didn't think about it as such. But yeah, it was considered let's take a step of faith. You know, do this, and
If it works,
you
okay. If it doesn't,
you just take your step of faith, you know.
Where did the gray and pink house come into play?
The what?
The gray and pink house. Pink and gray.
That's the one we bought.
That's the one we
said
bought there in
made the
Sulphur.
decision for not to go to school.
Oh, I was thinking that was Bridge City that you were talking
Yeah.
about.
No,
That's what
no,
I
no,
thought
no,
too.
no,
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 okay.
no.
No, but now we're in Bridge City. And we have this church. It's not doing too hot, especially when this one guy decides he doesn't like us. He wants us to get out. And so he's
Even though you guys basically restarted it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was his name? Was his last name Stearns?
Yes, and Mrs. Stearns, when your mothers first came here to stay with us, she came one day to visit. Remember?
She did? I don't remember that, no.
And I thought about it at the time, do you remember when you did this? But, of course, you don't say anything.
Yeah,
But,
Mr. Stearns. I forgot his, just now remembered his name.
Yeah,
My,
and he wanted us to leave, said,
God
I'll
rest
start
his
paying
soul.
my tithe if you'll leave.
May he be blessed if he's alive. I doubt if he's alive, though.
But it was during that time, your dad went out, had a meeting, started feeling like we should go to California. For what reason, we didn't know. We'd already had that bad experience before when they went.
Well, I'm back up to Bridge City because there was a hurricane.
Carla.
What is it?
Hurricane Carla.
Hurricane Carla. We didn't actually come over the area, but I remember going to Beaumont to stay
Marvin
with
and
Marvin
Anna's
and
house.
Anna's, and sleeping all on the floor. Then we came back to the house.
I remember that.
We were going to try to stay there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was flooding, starting to flood everywhere.
And we stayed till nighttime, and then
And you were
The
putting
floors
all
were
the
getting covered.
furniture up on cans of food. I remember that.
And the TV was still on, amazingly. I don't know why it was on. And I can't believe that you reached behind and unplugged it standing in water.
and a snake came.
Yes,
in
a
the house.
snake was
That's-
behind there. Mm-hmm.
But what I remember most vividly, Dad, it's like I felt like God brought this back to my memory one day, is you are evacuating us out of the house. You couldn't have gone with any children because I don't even know how you got through that water.
I just walked through it.
The water was waist high on you.
Nah, not quite waste.
No?
No, not quite
The
waste.
man
At
across
some
the
points,
way
I think
came
it
to
was because
Well,
I
because
remember.
because the land slanted kind of upwards. In other words, you might started waist high, but I don't know. I don't think it was that quite that
Had to
high.
go over
But
a
the
ditch.
further you went, the higher you went. The water
Ground.
level was not as high.
Of course, you couldn't see where you were walking.
No,
The water
it
was
was
Couldn't
there
black.
see.
as night.
It was black.
And that was the thing. I mean, here I am. I'm a tall. Well, however age I was, I had to have been 11.
You're in 7th grade?
Yes,
Seventh
there at Bridge City because I mean that's when I was first gaining my experiences with kids. I had my first boyfriend, if you can call it that. I mean, he would walk me home from school and stuff, and my first best friend, and starting to feel settled in a place.
Mhm.
But so I had to have been 11 because I turned 12 when we got the summer of being in California. But what I remembered was you shuttling us back and forth, one at a time, one kid at a time. And here I am, I'm tall, leggy, and you're holding on to me for dear life, and I'm trying to climb on top of your shoulders because I'm terrified of the water. Absolutely terrified
It
of
was
the
a
water.
neighbor man that came and helped.
Oh, really?
The kids. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I was just getting myself over there. The wind was blowing.
Yeah, we had to evacuate. They came, they told us to evacuate.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah.
Did we stay at Marvin and Anna's twice then in that time period?
Well, we
Yeah.
went to Marvin
Took
and
the
Anna's.
dog with us too. Anyway, and then we got out, I'm sure, just in time because when we came back, water had gotten up to where the stove and it had burned something out, electricity.
Well, I don't remember how high it got in the house. It got in the house.
You know, I was, what, 2 years old at that time?
It was no more than that. It was a new house.
But did you know that's my first memory? I remember that.
Of what, the house?
I remember the flood. I remember
Oh, okay.
sitting in the kitchen, or
Okay, the
maybe I don't know if it was on a high
You
chair.
must have been about 3.
But I was sitting there seeing the water rise. That's what I remember, looking out a window,
We
seeing the
saw
water
it
rise.
coming up in the back.
And I remember
That's
going
where
back
it
to the
was.
house afterwards and seeing what looked like sand all over the floor,
Oh,
sand
it's horrible.
everywhere.
Smelly.
And I thought that was a cool thing. But I was 3 years old.
And the house had shifted on
Yeah.
its base.
And
It
all the
was straight
sides were
anyway.
swollen out. And I remember you spending hours trying to sand that
Yes.
down.
It was smelly.
And I was given some paint to repaint stuff by the Red Cross. I think the Red Cross gave me some paint.
You boarded up the house too, didn't you, before you left? The windows?
I don't
no,
think
no,
we
no,
did.
No.
You didn't?
It was just a matter of you kids were all asleep in the beds, and we came in there and said, "We have to get out." So they had to start carrying you out. Because we could
Yeah.
see the water was starting to seep in, couldn't keep it out anymore.
Then the snake was in the house, and that was it. I thought that's why we got out, was because the snake came in.
Oh.
I didn't know that we were asked to evacuate, or told to
But
evacuate.
the question is, and I do not know the answer. The question is, where was my car that we could go to the car and drive to Beaumont?
It was up on a hill. It was up higher. It was on higher ground. You actually, people had to take us there.
Why would I have?
Because
Left
you
it
you
there.
knew that you wouldn't lose it if you didn't. If the storm surge occurred, you knew we had to get out again, so you left it there. I remember that. I remember going to the car, and it's up on a hill, up on a
Okay.
higher rise, I should say, not a hill. There's not. It's all flat around here, but up on a higher area.
Yeah, all right. Well, I don't even remember at all the car, where it was or anything, but it makes sense that it had to be parked somewhere.
Yep, there was a bunch of people that had parked their cars on higher ground.
All right, okay. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.